What's good? Gen Z Daddy here. Today, I'm going to talk about the time that I ran a marathon and why running a marathon sucks, but you should honestly do it anyway. I'm going to break it down into a couple parts. Part one being why I run, part two being the schedule and consistency of how I ran, and then part three being the race itself and how I felt afterwards. Let's dive right into it. Why I run. I run for an escape. I'm running away from my problems literally. And that might not be the healthiest way of dealing with it, but escape feels like solitude. And solitude just gives me peace. So I run for the sense of just feeling at peace with myself. Because a lot of times I have a lot of thoughts running through my head, wondering, when am I going to do this? When will I achieve that? Why do I feel this way? But when I run, for some reason, I can't explain why, but my mind kind of quiets down and my body does all the work. And it's something that I crave and something that feels so incredible to me as I run. And it's one of the biggest reasons why I run. Also, the endorphins. Obviously, I'm feeling good as I'm cranking out the miles. It makes me happy. And then, to be honest, I'm a big fitness nerd and running keeps me fit, but it's never been on like the top of my priorities of like, let's run to stay fit. It's more so a byproduct. So those are the good reasons why I run. Now, one of the bad reasons why I run, and I mean, we can still conjunction it into being a good reason why I run, but it was a negative experience that fueled my running instead of the positiveness between everything that I just said. So, negatively, I was going through like the worst breakup of my life, and it just felt like I needed to channel my energy somewhere. And for some reason, I just started running. And it felt incredible to me, and I kept going, and then I got the bug, and now, bam, here I am running ridiculous distances. That's why I run. Let's talk about my story behind it and the consistency and schedule I had for it. In 2022, I started running. It was in April, and I started off only doing like a mile or two each day, and it wasn't consistent to a point. It was consistent weekly, but it wasn't consistent daily. So each week I'd probably go for like 3 or 4 runs, but day by day I wasn't like, I have to do this run every day. It was very flexible, and it started off very small. It was honestly just 1 mile or 2 miles. I remember growing up, my dad used to always run 2 miles each day. So 2 miles felt like a safe point. Like, that's probably what I should be running. And that's where I started. I remember the early days of my running, I would go outside, and there's like this little loop around where I live, and it goes along like a little waterfront, and it's really nice. And it felt like a mile, but I never really measured it. I didn't record my runs at all. I just kind of just went out and did it, and I just assumed it was very close to a mile, and I did it twice. It turns out it was a little under. I think it was 0.8 or so. Honestly, I just started by running about 1.6 miles each day for like 4 times a week. And I did that week after week until about July. July was when I took running to the next level to run among other people as well. And I did my first 5K, and I was terrified. I remember being so scared, thinking I'm going to look like a fool. I'm going to get smoked. People are going to wipe the floor with me and think I'm an idiot. And it was a lot of anxiety to get over and through. I'm very, very glad I did it. I did this technique to help myself get through it, where I sandwich something really, really nice afterwards. So I do something that scares me, and then on the tail end of it, I have something that I'm super excited for. I remember I went to the Adirondacks right after my race and was super excited for that. Throughout the day, I kept telling myself, no matter how this 5K turns out, no matter how I do, no matter how badly I get smoked, I'm still going to the Adirondacks at the end of the day. And it kind of gave me like a light at the end of the tunnel. So if you're trying to get through something that kind of scares you, but you feel like it's going to push you in the right direction, I highly recommend almost like sandwiching something good at the end, because, hey, it gives you motivation to get through the day. So I remember doing the 5K and absolutely loving it. I fell in love with running at that moment. I knew it was going to be something special for me. I knew that I wanted to do something more, and it felt so natural. And I got called out too. It wasn't even like I got first place and smoked everyone. It wasn't this magical moment. I remember I went to the race and people were calling me out for my shoes, like vendors and stuff. And I didn't look the part of a runner, and I was too scared to go up to the front line. I stayed back where it was just the walkers, because it was a fun run. So there was a lot of people there. I remember getting called out, thinking I was an idiot, but I got through it, and I ended up having a great time. And I remember probably within the next couple days after that race, I signed up for another 5K, and that one was called the Toughest 5K, and it had us going up a mountain. And I say mountain in quotes because it wasn't quite a mountain. It's not like a huge mountain, but it was significant elevation and then coming back down. So they called it the Toughest 5K. And then I kept climbing the distances after that. After the 5K, there was this special turkey trot that happened in my area, and they had a 4.4 miler. So instead of doing like the next step up, which is usually a 10K, I did a 4.4 mile run, and then I went to the quarter marathon, and then I went to a half, and I went to a full. I did climb through the distances. I did everything that everyone suggests you to do, and I honestly do suggest you to do that. You don't want to go from a 5K and then go straight to a marathon unless you're super, super confident in your skills and abilities, because you want to build that confidence in yourself of knowing, hey, I've already done a quarter marathon. Hey, I've already done a half. The Legos don't fit if you try to go from a 5K to a full. Like, you can force it and you can get it done, but the Legos don't fit nicely, and you're probably not going to have as good of an experience as if you kind of went in order of the steps. With that being said, I do want to point out that my story is kind of accelerated, I feel, because I started running April 2022, and my first marathon was September 2023. And I remember when I finished the first season and we were going into the winter, I did a Winter Warrior quarter marathon, and I was like, okay, where am I going to take this? Am I gonna stop at a half marathon? I remember writing in my journal, it would be really cool to do a full marathon, but I'm scared. I think I'm gonna set my bucket list to a half marathon. I was almost like doubting myself, and it's pretty normal to doubt yourself, and it's pretty normal to set the bar low so that you can feel like you can attain it and achieve something, and to have goals that don't scare you too much. And it was like a safety net that I was scared of and didn't want to fully commit to. But in February of 2023, before I ran my first half marathon, I read a David Goggins book. You will either know this guy off the top of your head or have no idea who I'm talking about. But David Goggins is Who's Gonna Carry the Boats, and he's no BS, and he's go, go, go. His book was so inspirational and got me feeling some sort of way that after I finished his book, I signed up for a full marathon without having completed a half marathon yet. Now, once time progressed on, I ended up doing the half marathon first, but I signed up for the full one without having completed it yet. And I was just totally inspired, and it felt good. And I remember him saying, why would I run half of a full goal that I have? And it clicked to me. What am I doing? I'm limiting the ceiling for myself because I'm scared. Let me run the full. I'm going to run the half to get confident, but I'm going to run the full because I can. And then that season, that year, 2023, was the biggest building block for running. I structured running around everything. I developed my morning run routine, and I ran 5 to 6 times each week. And it would be 3 miles in the morning, sometimes 5. Mostly I remember it being 3 though. And then my long runs, I just knew I had to get my miles up. And so I would start running longer and longer. And my long runs would go from 10 miles and then 13. And then I'd be like, well, let's do 15. And then I got really scared and did 18. And I was like, I still don't think I can do a marathon yet. Let me push 20. And I did a couple 20s, and I was like, okay, I think I got this. I think I can do this. 20 miles had me on my feet for like 3.5 hours. I was like, hey, what's another hour? I could probably do 4.5 hours. So I maxed out at doing 20 miles on my long run. And I ended up doing very, very well, in my opinion. Now, I'm not breaking records. I'm not doing 2-hour marathon. But I did do just under sub 4. While you're in this journey of building up your endurance and building up your marathon skills, it comes with sacrifices. And sacrifices like training time. And that means I would go to bed much earlier than I used to because I'd wake up mad early to go run. And it often came with having to be disciplined over what food you have, especially at night, because if you have a bad meal at night, you're going to feel it in the morning. And it just came with kind of having to say no to some things because you had to prioritize your running. And it was tough and it felt like a lot of hard work, but it also felt easy because it was what I wanted to do. For the first time in my life, I had a hobby that I was truly passionate over. And when I got invited out to do something, but I had an early run in the morning that was a long run that was really important to me, I said no confidently because I had a goal that I wanted to achieve. It was an awesome experience to train for a marathon, and I'm currently training for another marathon right now. I love how in 2023 it basically laid the groundwork for a lifelong athlete for myself. 2023 kind of taught me that I am capable of doing great things, and it taught me that hard work brings the results in. Now let's get into the actual story of my race because I have it written down in my journal and I just want to tell you the raw thoughts and the raw feelings of how my race went. So here we go. So race day was scary and exciting. I was going to run a complete 26.2 mile marathon, certified distance, able to be a Boston qualifier if I made time. Spoiler alert, I did not make that good of a time. Don't get me wrong, I am endlessly proud of how I did, but this was a trail race and I didn't train for time and honestly went in just wanting to finish. I told myself 4 hours is good, 5 hours is good, 7 hours is better than not trying. There were a total of 52 or 53 runners. Out of 52, I received 8th place. My exact time was 3 hours, 56 minutes, 40 seconds, 33 milliseconds. I crushed it with a capital G. Like for real, man. There were so many runners I kind of ended up conversating with throughout the journey. The first few miles, I kept pace with an older chick who wore the shirt that said, "I don't chase boys, I pass them." I didn't like that shirt, but she was cool. She was starting to run 100 marathons and is currently in the 70s. She encouraged me and asked me about my running journey. Eventually, an aid station happened and she got water and never caught up. One could say she was chasing me for the rest of the race. The next bunch I kind of assimilated with was a group of 3 guys. They were probably in their 30s and were running a good 8:45 to 9-minute mile pace for the middle 12 miles or so. I stayed with them, I want to say from mile 6 to 18. I didn't talk to them, I just stayed near, making sure not to let myself dip too far back. Probably around mile 14, an older dude joined the squad and one of the other runners tried pushing ahead. I stayed pace with the bulk of the group. I was sipping on my energy gels and enjoying some jelly beans and Gatorade all throughout. But anyways, miles 17 to 18 hit, and one of the homies bonks. What is a bonk? Basically hitting the wall. Your body has glycogen storage that it uses on a run, and typically it goes from full to zero at miles 16 to 20. That's why runners have to fuel. You will bonk otherwise, and it will not be fun. But yeah, miles 17 to 18 hits, and one guy completely falls behind, and it becomes me, another 30-ish-year-old dude, and the older gentleman. During these late teen miles and early 20 miles, the miles get so long. Obviously, they're the same length, but your body feels different. From mile 5 to 15, your body is chilling, loving life, in flow state. Mile 16 comes along and the body's like, yo, I'm hungry and I'm getting tired. Please fuel or stop or do both. And it's hard because every part of you wants to do both, but you can't, not in a marathon. Eventually, mile 19 and 20 comes along and the 30-ish-year-old guy bonks out. I saw him eat a banana, grab some water, and then I never saw him again. It was just me and the older dude now. Honestly, the whole race, I had to keep telling myself, this is my race to run, no one else's. I had to tell myself, if I can't keep pace with these guys, that's okay. I'm not here to win. I'm here to finish. The older guy started pulling away, and I let him. I had my phone tracking my miles and telling me my pace. As long as I was close to 9 minutes per mile, I was happy. I calculated that with a pace close to 9 minutes, give or take a minute, I should be good to go to get under 4 hours. Once I passed halfway, that sub 4 ultimately became my goal. I told myself I didn't drive 3 hours, train 6 times a week to not impress myself. So I committed to that. And that meant staying on pace for me, not the older guy. But this time, my legs were really starting to feel it. Remember, I'm running 6.2 more miles than I've ever ran. On top of it being on trails and being hilly, I was getting close to running on fumes and bonking. I could tell. Mile 21 and 22 pass, and I see myself slowly passing a handful of other contestants who have bonked. It's tough. It's really tough. I kept saying to myself, only a 10K left, and at 23.1, only a 5K left. I tried to envision how long the distance would be along the canal that I usually train on. I told myself I didn't get this far to crash. I told myself the pain is what I signed up for. The pain is what makes the event so much more rewarding. So against all odds, I prevailed onwards without bonking too bad. Mile 24-ish, I find myself catching up to the older guy. We talked briefly and his drink fell. This was honestly probably the hardest part of the race, but I stopped dead in my tracks after 24 miles to pick up his drink and give it to him. After that, his pace began to drop, and it was just me. I outlasted everyone in the group I kind of tagged along in. Even the one dude who went ahead during mile 13 or so was bonked at mile 22 when I passed him. All this pain, all this effort, all this dedication and grit was paying off. My time stayed close to 9 minutes per mile up to the very end. My last 0.2 mile was at a pace of 10:02. If the race was any longer, I think I would have bonked, but I didn't. I beat the group, and I beat the sub 4 hour time, and I beat my expectations for myself. I ran a marathon, I got the medal, I took some absolutely amazing photos, shirtless, flexed, right by the event banner, because I conquered something some people only dream of doing. On average, people run their first marathon in their 30s. On average, people finish at 4 hours and 30 minutes. On average, people don't even run marathons. You, sir, are cut above average. You are exceptional. And then it goes on to explain my feelings about other stuff, but I just love how detailed and how raw my journal was with painting the picture of that race, because I can still have that movie play through my head, and it's so fun to just reminisce on and think about. Running a marathon is not easy. It's going to suck. It's going to teach you some life lessons. It's going to construct your life in a way you didn't even realize your life needed to be constructed. But it's going to give you the discipline to achieve whatever goals that you have set for yourself. And I highly, highly encourage that even if you don't run right now, think about running a marathon. Think about putting those steps into motion. And not everyone's a runner. Not everyone will run a marathon. But I think everyone should embark on a challenge that is similar to a marathon, where it scares you, but it's possible, because you can do it. And once you do it, you will have this confidence within yourself that it's really, really hard to take away. Gen Z Daddy out.